What was your worst, oh fuck, I'm actually going to die moment? Began choking on some gummy worms at a friend's party. Everyone thought I was joking, and I was hopelessly trying to cough it out for a good minute or two before my friend karate chopped me on the back when he realized I was actually choking. I was scared shitless at the time, thought I was done for. When I was a child I wanted to bungee jump, and I had a play set in my backyard with a climbing rope. Once on the second story of the play set I got the rope that led to the ground, but I couldn't get it properly tied around my waist, so I tied it around my neck and jumped off. Luckily somehow I didn't snap my neck, but then I was left hanging there. My feet couldn't reach the ground. I remember trying to stretch my toes to reach and clawing, trying to use my hands to get some room to breath, but I couldn't. I realized I was going to die. Luckily I had a friend over who ran inside to get my mom, and she was able to get me down, which I don't really remember. I do remember the rope burn I had around my neck for days though. Edit, I'm a girl, doesn't really matter, people just keep calling me man, and I was 5. Fucking kids, goddammit. Leave them outside for 15 minutes and they hang themselves. I feel so bad that I laughed at this because it's so true. I knew a kid who was left napping unsupervised and ended up almost suffocating himself in the fitted sheet of the mattress. Kids are terrifying death magnets, and I don't know how parents aren't just permanently attached to make sure everything is okay 100% of the time. Getting prepped for a neurosurgery that could wreck me in itself. I was getting an IV of antibiotics and waiting on the anesthesiologist to put me under. My whole family was there, we were talking and trying to comfort my wife who was having a hard time with it. She's holding my hand crying, mom and dad trying to hold it together behind her. She looks up at me and I see her go ghost white. First I thought she was going to faint. At the same point I noticed my dad run out of the room rather quickly. And that's when it started. Super cold but start pouring sweat, followed by breathing problems. My throat is swelling shut, hives everywhere. All in a matter of 45 seconds. In rushes at least 5 nurses and 3 doctors plus anesthesiologist. Doctor tells me I'm allergic to the IV so they have to put me out. Now. I didn't even get to tell her I loved her. I was trying to say the words but couldn't, and as the darkness crept in. It was the first time the fear of death set in. Well, how did it go? Did you survive? I must know. Dead now. Mountain biking and I just about slipped off a 30 feet ledge. Barely caught myself. That the most panic and complete fear I have ever felt in my life, and I never want to feel it again. I almost did the same lol. Was a 20-footer with lots of rocks/cacti. A stone caught my front wheel at an odd angle and sent me over the bars. About a foot to my left was the drop. Fell 3 stories, due to freezing rain on the roof that night, and on the way down I was certain I was going to die. I went out there to talk on the phone since my bedroom was above my parents'. I fell at about a 45-degree angle onto my feet. The impact caused my thoracic vertebra 9 to fracture, and once I fell from that angle to flat, my right lung collapsed, and I had a brain bleed on the front and back of my brain. Luckily my father had heard me scream and found me within a couple minutes, coughing up blood into the grass. He then drove me to the hospital and nearly passed out a few times on the way there, figuring that it was already too late for me. Spent the whole ride trying to calm him down as I felt the pressure increase in my chest from the amount of blood filling my chest due to the collapsed lung. When I arrived at the hospital I blacked out as nurses and my parents and family doctor were around me looking worried sick. TLDR, fell 3 stories, fractured spine, collapsed lung, and 2 brain contusions on the front and back of my brain because of freezing rain that night. Did it leave any permanent damage? After about 5 months in a back brace I was fine, got around in the back brace the whole time with no pain. Don't like being touched in the place the chest tube was inserted through my rib cage, that's about it lol. I was 14 maybe? I had just got done skateboarding with friends, and was skating back to my house. When a car passes me, parks directly in my path, and 3 guys, mid-20s, hop out. One of them walks right up to me, pistol in hand, and says, "Let me see your wallet." Of course, being the terrified child I was, I emptied everything out of my pockets to prove that I had no cash. He takes 1 step back, and in broad daylight, points the gun at me from his hip and says, "We're good, right?" That was the moment I knew I was toast. I guess I answered correctly. As he turned away, he said, in a morbidly chipper tone, "Cool, thanks little dude." They got back in the car and drove away. That was the first time I found myself on the business end of a firearm. The second time was equally terrifying. I didn't grow up in the best area. TLDR, when I was a teenager, I was robbed at gunpoint by a group of grown men. Tried swimming across the Menai Strait, almost drowned, made it to the bank about 2 miles from where I started. Was a long walk home. 6 years ago, as I was laying in a hospital bed for 24 hours while the tests came back to tell me what kind of leukemia I had. I told my wife and my parents to go home and sleep that night. I'm very thankful for the nurse that was there when reality sunk in. She listened while I cried and said that I couldn't go yet because my wife is disabled and I have a boy that needs to go to college. Thankfully it turned out to be chronic myeloid leukemia and treatable by 1 pill per day. 90% chance to live into my 80s. I've been considered in remission since 2013. Edit, thanks everybody. I'm a lucky man. Second edit, chemotherapy drugs are expensive. If you're in the US and can't afford them, go to needymeds.org. The manufacturers have programs to reduce the cost or even make them free. If you have insurance, still check because there are programs where you don't have to pay your deductibles or copays out of pocket. Jesus, so glad you're doing okay. Your wife and kid doing alright? He's my stepson actually, but I consider him a son. He's doing great and in the Purdue Mechanical Engineering program at a satellite campus. I'm proud of him. I was at the pub with some friends one night. We all drink a lot. I was perhaps the heaviest drinker of the group, but I was also the biggest person in the group, so it took the most for me to get drunk, so I like to use that as an excuse to drink more than I should. This night, I was very drunk. Anyway, it was about 1 kilometer from the pub to the bus stop that would take me home. I had had way too much. My phone has like 3% battery left on it, so I turned it off to save charge in case I needed to make any emergency calls later. It was raining. I slipped on a wet curb and cracked my head on the pavement. Really hard. I was bleeding everywhere. I couldn't grab my phone from my pocket. Between the pain and the concussion, I couldn't do much of anything. The rain was getting heavier. I was face down in a bit of a depression in the path. Water was rising around my face. I was terrified. I thought I'd bleed out, and if that took too long, I thought I'd drown in a puddle because I couldn't move. It was the longest 2 minutes of my life, but someone came past, saw me, and called an ambulance. He didn't move me because he didn't know if I'd had any spinal injuries, and you don't want to move someone with a spinal injury. He waited for the ambulance to come, they checked me out and carefully put me on a stretcher and took me to the hospital. The fall had impinged on a nerve in my neck, which was why I couldn't move properly. I had a very, very bad concussion and had lost quite a lot of blood, but not enough to require a transfusion. My neck was fixed fairly easily, but I spent 2 days in hospital just in case. I was so sure I was going to die. I haven't been out drinking with my friends since. What a wild ride, man. That's fucked. Lucky someone came past when they did. Glad you made it. I wouldn't either. That would turn me off drinking for a good couple years. It's not a surprise someone came past. The place was pretty busy and a lot of people take the bus to or from because it's safer than drink driving, and legaler. So I would have been found pretty quick in any case. But I didn't think like that at the time. Funny thing though. I'd been depressed a long time. At times. My brush with death, and how terrified I was, totally removed any idealizations I'd had. So maybe in the long run I needed to have that happen, for my own sake. I've been drinking a lot less since too, but always at home, safe. I woke up and saw a huge protrusion in my ribs. I thought for sure it was a malignant tumor. Broke down then and there, only to find out later from the doctor that I had fractured my ribs and somehow not realized it. I can imagine you being reduced to a whimpering pile in front of the doctor and he was just like, "Nah bro, that's just your bones." That time when we slid down the glacier face and went down and down, faster and faster until my ex's ice pick and a tree stopped us. Fuck that. My ice climbing days are done. When I was a child, I remember going to a picnic where I didn't know anyone, and so I wandered into the forest. In there, I found some bricks, a net, and some rope. I decided to try to build a booby trap where the bricks hung from the net and the rope was loosely tied at ankle level such that if you tripped over it, you would untie it and drop the bricks. Right after setting it up, I accidentally set it off and one of the bricks hit me in the back of the head. I was able to walk it off after about lying on the floor for about 5 minutes, but I think I was lucky only one brick hit. I'm an engineer now, so I guess it didn't deter me too much. I was roofied at a party. Besides not being able to fucking move and vomiting uncontrollably, My blood pressure and body temperature tanked. It took an hour for me to get to a hospital, and God, was that bad. I genuinely thought I was going to die and came to peace with it. This was a week ago. Fuck me dead. I hope there's a police investigation going? Unfortunately, no. I was taken to a shit hospital and they didn't test for Rohypnol. They didn't even take my blood alcohol content. It wasn't until after that I connected the dots and realized: A, I only had 2 drinks. B, I had all the symptoms of being roofied. C, a few guys, different guys, were really chatting me up at one point. The whole thing is a blur, honestly. You got lucky. Someone tried to roofie someone I know, over 15 years ago now, and it didn't knock her out enough, I guess, so she, not knowing anything was wrong, and having literally had 1 beer, tried to drive home. She wound up in a head-on collision with an off-duty cop and his family. The family was okay, the cop had a broken leg, and, not only did she nearly die due to a bunch of injuries, she'd spend the next 5 to 10 years being harassed by the legal system. I've personally witnessed her driving record that said vehicular manslaughter when she was convicted. She had no way to prove the roofie attempt, and she was in a coma for a week or 2 after the accident, a vehicular assault, and nobody actually died. So she'd have to fight to get her record fixed, and she's forever a convicted felon. I was struck by lightning. It blew me off my feet, paralyzed me and knocked me unconscious. While I was unconscious, I was semi-aware. Not in an awake and talking way, more of a lucid dreaming type of way. Peaceful and calm. All I could see was blackness and falling stars, kinda like the green scrolling numbers on the Matrix. Before I came to, I honestly thought that was what death was. That doesn't sound like a bad way to go. Well, that part wasn't too bad. Prior to passing out and immediately after coming to, however, it was the worst pain I have ever experienced in my life. It felt like knives of fire being driven into every nerve I had. The pain is what probably knocked me unconscious. Oh, since you didn't mention pain, I think I was assuming it was one of those events where your body experiences a lot of trauma but the pain isn't felt immediately. How long did the pain last afterwards? A couple of weeks. Felt like I had pulled every muscle in my body, a deep ache all over. It was pretty severe in the hospital, 3 days in, but it was manageable with OTC meds after that. The real pain in the ass was the smell and tinnitus. All I could smell for a week was burnt hair because the hair inside my nose was burned off, along with my arms and legs. I would blow my nose and black shit would come out. I still suffer tinnitus to this day. Event happened in 2004. When it happened, it sounded like a shotgun went off in my ears. I'm still dealing with complications from it. The doctor said I had a singed spinal cord, and during the x-rays they discovered I have a birth defect where 2 of my vertebrae did not separate in utero. The bolt aggravated the shit out of that. Those 2 things combined means I get low to medium level pain almost every day in my lower back. Nothing can really be done about it. But man, when it happened, it must be what hell feels like. Just blinding, searing agony. Only lasted a second or 2 before I was knocked out, but it was by far the worst pain I have ever felt. My uncle and I were swimming around a bunch of rocks at the edge of a beach one time and it was super choppy. Big mistake because it got to the point where we wanted out, and we couldn't swim the way we came because the tide was ripping way too much our way. So we tried to get up on the rocks. My uncle got stuck in some fishing line that was left there and I was a bit further down, got dumped right into a deep rock pool, high sides, and I couldn't get out of it. After spending what felt like 5 minutes, but it probably wasn't, getting pushed underwater when trying to scramble onto the rocks, not reaching anything worth grabbing onto and getting cut from them because of the heavy waves, I just resorted to screaming and thinking I was probably genuinely going to drown. I didn't know what to do. Then some random guy who happened to be in the area spear fishing came up and dragged me out. Screaming was the right thing to do. It's alarming how many people drown silently when there was someone within hearing distance who might have been able to help. Note, I am not encouraging untrained people to put themselves in dangerous situations to save others. I'm just saying if you think you might be drowning, yell for help. Back in high school I worked for Arby's, fast food chain known for their thinly sliced roast beef for the non-US Redditors out there. My shift was just about done, we were beginning the closing process, I was feeling a bit hungry so I thought I'd grab a slice of roast beef off the slicer. Grabbed a larger portion than usual but that was fine because I love the stuff. As I'm attempting to work away at this hunk of roast beef in my mouth, would you know it, ding, there's a customer at the drive-thru. As I desperately tried to get this piece of beef down my gullet I realize I can't swallow it. I panic and try to cough it up into the garbage, but alas, it won't come up either. Fuck. I go into full panic mode and quickly make my way back to the sandwich prep guy who spoke very little English. I was attempting to say help and gesturing to my throat in a feeble attempt to show I was choking and needed help. Due to the fact we joked around a lot, he was certain I was just pulling a prank on him and laughed. At that moment I could have punched him in the goddamned face, but looking back I can't say I blame him one bit. Regardless, it was clear he wasn't going to be of any help, so I made my way further back while attempting to shout my manager's name. To me it was pretty clear I was trying to say her name, but what it really sounded like was deep guttural noises accompanied by a red-faced teen who had overdone it on the roast beef. She runs over in an attempt to help, but by then, my friend the sandwich prep guy figured out I was indeed not joking and actually choking. A few slaps on the back from him, and me coming to the realization that I will die if I don't get this roast beef out of my throat, somehow worked and the beef landed right in the trash receptacle. Got a little talking to from my boss regarding eating on the job, but man, that was a scary 2 minutes. I couldn't stop imaging the outcomes that I actually succumbed to such a stupid and pathetic death. TLDR, don't overdo it on the roast beef. Iraq, United States Marine Corps. Got knocked down by an RPG blast ridiculously close to me after an IED disabled our vehicle, lost my rifle, was being sprayed by AK fire, ears ringing, barely conscious. Army Blackhawk shows up and quells enemy fire. Buddy pulls me to safety. I thought I would for sure be killed. Good times. Dude, fuck getting blown up. There's nothing quite like it. US Army, Afghanistan, and I've been blown up twice. The first one wasn't terrible. I ate the blast of a SVIED going off in front of me, but I didn't catch any shrapnel. The second one, though. Burst of explosions going off on the backside of a wall that I was fighting from. Blew the wall into my face, blinded my right eye for hours and stuck shrapnel in my cornea, and peppered my leg and arm with shrapnel. I was so disoriented, so terrified, I couldn't grasp what was happening. I was trying to react to contact. I thought an enemy machine gunner had somehow maneuvered and shot me in the head through the wall. My team had to pull me back while I was screaming that we needed to clear through. I haven't ever really been the same after that one. I was 15 and walking across a railroad bridge over a creek when I heard the train coming from around the curve. The bridge was not wide enough to stand to the side. I ran back the way I came, as fast as I could, with the train coming from behind. The railroad ties were the perfect length for my stride. As I got near the embankment, the ties suddenly became further apart and I tripped, banging my shin, and I couldn't get back up. I crawled the last 30 feet on my hands and knees, rolling off the track at the earliest point possible. A solid 90 seconds later the train came by. I had lots more time than I feared, but I was terrified during the run. Back in my junkie days I was drinking heavily and doing oxycodone and noticed that I wasn't able to breathe normally and could only gasp in big gasps of air. That lasted a good long time before I could breathe again. Was pretty sure I was gonna die there. Don't do drugs. Was that your turning point? Nope. Continued for quite some time after that until I lost everything and had to rebuild from scratch. Doing a lot better now though. I was the passenger in a car when the driver started having a seizure. His foot was on the gas pedal and the car was going faster and faster, and we were flying through a downtown area. It's a miracle we didn't hit any people or buildings. Somehow I realized after about 5 blocks to push the gearshift into neutral, auto transmission, shifter in the middle, and was then able to steer the car into a pile of snow. Driver was still seizing when the car stopped. Our daughter was in the back seat. I called 911 but gave the dispatcher the wrong cross streets in my panic. The ambulance came to 2 blocks away but I could hear it. Fortunately the dispatcher had kept me on the phone. And that's the day we found out my husband had the brain tumor that was eventually, 28 days later, fatal. Edit, thank you all so much for your kind thoughts. I was trying to answer you all one by one but thought this would be better. It's been almost 5 years. Some days are good, some are not, and it still has an almost daily impact as you can imagine because I'm the parent of a child who lost her father. We have gone to grief counseling and we will again as needed. My husband had never had a seizure prior to this that we know of. The shifter was in the middle as opposed to on the column. I called him the driver because that was the context of why I thought I was going to die. I think that's all of the questions I was asked. Thank you again for your kind thoughts.